Good evening and welcome. Tonight we'll be going over the history and geography of Austria. We'll start with geography and then history, and then I'll flip through this book to show you some amazing pictures of Austria. Look at this cover. It has the most Austrian looking man I've ever seen. Look at this. You can't get more Austrian than that. But there's quite a lot of things I associate with Austria. The Sound of Music is one of my favorite movies of all time, for one thing. But another thing that I associate a lot with Austria is one of my favorite ASMR artists, Melange ASMR. And since her channel is so incredible and so tingly and incredible, it's amazing. I can't enough anyway. I'm like at a loss for words describing her channel. It's so good. I asked if she could do the geography section of tonight's video since she's from Austria, and she did. So here is that.
Hey there. So Austria is a relatively small country right here in Central Europe. It borders the Czech Republic, Slovakia, Hungary, Slovenia, Italy, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, and Germany. And in German you pronounce the name as Österreich, which I guess is not that easy if English is your native language. Austria has 9 different Bundesländer. They are Wien or Vienna, the capital. Then here in the north along the Danube, Lower Austria and Upper Austria, or Nieder- and Oberösterreich. Here on the border to Hungary, there's the Burgenland. Here we have Styria or Steiermark, Kärnten or Carinthia in the south. Then here's Salzburg, which you surely know. The Tyrol or Tirol, with Osttirol here, and Vorarlberg, close to Switzerland. And you can see quite nicely here that Austria lies on the eastern side of the Alps, with the Alps moving all the way up almost to Vienna, located here. The largest mountains are here in this area, where you also have the Pasterze, the largest glacier. And here in the north you can see the Danube moving through, where you have quite a densely populated area. Typical for Austria, also quite a lot of lakes, like here, or here in the south, which are popular in summer. And if you ask Austrians what they're most proud of, they will probably tell you the quality of the water, the beauty of the mountains, and the landscape in general.
Thank you, Melange ASMR. That was incredible. I get really big tingles watching that. It's fantastic. Thank you again. So with that, let's get into the history of Austria. People have been living in this country. Oh, I forgot pencil. People have been living in this little corner of the world for a long, long time. There's actually a very famous artifact from prehistory that comes out of this region. You'll see a picture of it in this book. It's known as the Venus of Willendorf. And it's a little tiny statuette of a woman or goddess-like figure. It's a big mystery, but it's really neat. And anyway, I won't go off on a tangent about that because I totally could. But the ancient Celts lived in this area, in particular the Hallstatt culture. And they established a territory known as Noricum, which the Roman Empire conquered and made it into a province also called Noricum. And after the Roman Empire started to fall apart, this area was invaded by many different peoples, like the Bavarians, the Avars, Slavs, just a whole mix. And it was eventually conquered by Charlemagne. He absorbed it into the eastern part of his kingdom. The word Österreich, the word for Austria, meaning Eastern Kingdom, apparently. So that was in the year 788. So when he came, he brought Christianity with him, and it's still the predominant religion in Austria today. And the, king in this area, Otto I, stopped an invasion of the Magyar people, who are the Hungarians, and became like the prominent ruler to the point where he became the Holy Roman Emperor of the Holy Roman Empire, which Austria became a part of. The area here was ruled by a family known as the Babenbergs. And after the last Babenberg died in 1246, there was a bit of a scramble over the other reigning rich families in the Holy Roman Empire. And the winner was the Habsburg family. So Rudolf I of the Habsburgs took control of the area, and he became the first in a long line of Habsburgs to rule in this area. The Habsburgs left their mark across all of Europe and other various parts of the world as well. They were a very large family and married into many other different royal families, including their own. Very famously, they're an incredibly inbred family after many, many generations. But they were extremely, extremely powerful and very influential and crucial to the history of Europe, and they lived right here in Vienna. After the Battle of Mohacs in 1526, when the Ottoman Turks began to invade Hungary, the Habsburgs annexed part of Hungary before the Ottomans could. This really upset the Ottomans, of course, and set off a very long series of conflicts of Habsburgs versus Ottomans. The Ottomans attacked multiple times. One of the more famous ones was when Suleiman the Magnificent tried to invade Vienna in 1529 and failed. They invaded, like I said, so many times. They tried again in 1683 and also failed. But the Habsburgs stayed strong. Mostly in 1740, a very strong woman came into power named Maria Theresa. Her father died. He left her as the heir. There had never been like a female empress, because it can't really be an emperor, I suppose. So there was a war of succession because people wanted to obviously take over this very wealthy corner of the world, and Maria Theresa won out and became one of the most powerful rulers, in my opinion, in European history. She is really up there. She was a remarkable lady. During all of this, Austria was flourishing in like the arts. This is when Mozart lived in Austria, was writing beautiful music. There's so many different composers that came out of Austria. Beautiful architecture, and the rich, lavish culture of the area was really flourishing for the wealthy, of course, not so much the poor people. Eventually, the Holy Roman Empire came to an end thanks to Napoleon. The Austrian army, or the Habsburg army, lost quite a few battles against him and severely weakened it. but they mustered back up, and helped to defeat Napoleon. So out of the ashes of the Holy Roman Empire came the Austrian Empire. And after a lot of shuffling around, they wound up merging with Hungary in 1867 and became the Austro-Hungarian Empire. I talked about that in my Hungary video in a lot more detail. Since the Austrian people were very similar to the newly formed Republic of Germany up here, there's talk of just fusing the two together, like they pretty much spoke the same language, had a lot of the same customs as a lot of people in the Bavaria region of Germany. But the Prussians interfered. The Austrians fought the Prussians for a minute. They also fought the Italians over the Tyrol region down here. And after losing to the Prussians, one of the deals was that they could not merge with Germany, which upset quite a few people, apparently. But that didn't stop Austria from incurring on other parts of Europe. In 1908, they annexed Bosnia-Herzegovina, which did not make the people living there very happy. The Serbians are a very proud, strong culture, and they didn't want some rich, fancy Habsburgs taking over their territory, understandably. A lot of people didn't like the Habsburgs throughout history in Europe, but they just kind of had to put up with them because they were the richest and wealthiest and the most powerful through all the marriages and what have you. But that came to an abrupt halt in 1914 when the heir to the Austro-Hungarian Empire was shot in Sarajevo. He was assassinated with his wife, and that wound up sparking World War I. Austria declared war on Serbia. Russia declared war on Austria. It became World War I. Very chaotic time in Europe, as you can imagine. Austria-Hungary very famously lost the war, so in 1918 the country reshuffled. It became a republic. The emperor abdicated. Democracy comes into Austria. But it was still a very messy time. The interwar period in this corner of the world was notoriously messy. Economically, politically, all of the above. There was a movement to unify Germany and Austria known as the Anschluss, which was just their term for unification. The 1930s came with the Depression and economic troubles, and the leader of Austria, his name was Dollfuss, decided he was going to declare himself the dictator, which was kind of the thing that was happening in Italy and Germany, in this area of Europe. So he said, why not me? I'm going to take over this country. It's kind of in chaos. I'm going to take charge. And people obviously didn't like that. A civil war broke out. Dollfuss was murdered in a coup, to put it bluntly. So the next power to come in control in 1918 said, how about this? We'll have a referendum. We'll ask Austrians, do you want to unify with Germany, which by now is Nazi Germany? And before that referendum could happen, Germany just invaded and annexed Austria. They were fairly welcomed by the majority of the people, not just because of the Anschluss movement, but because Austria was just kind of chaotic at the moment. However, the Nazis were Nazis and very heavily persecuted many peoples in Austria, mainly the Jewish population. Vienna had a massive Jewish population, and they were also very wealthy. So they were targeted, obviously. And of course, the horrors of the Holocaust ran rampant across Austria. And obviously, World War II happens not long after that, and we all know that story. Like I always say, I gloss over kind of the more horrible parts of history because this is a relaxation channel. And, I don't want to get into the very sad, very horrifying details of that time. And I think a lot of Austrians would thank me because it's a period of history that's acknowledged but not really discussed. It was very messy. I feel like every country has a moment like that, but this was kind of like a big one. But anyway, as we all know, World War II ended. 1945, the Soviets came in and liberated Vienna, I suppose. They conquered it. And out of the ashes of that, Austria resumed their constitution before Adolphus even took charge, like the constitution from like the 1920s. The country was occupied by the Allies for 10 years, occupied by Soviets and Americans, the British, until it could figure itself out, figure out the boundaries, make sure everything was okay, and then they withdrew. And for the most part, Austria has been very, for the most part, compared to other countries around the world, they've been very, very stable economically, politically, all of the above. It's been pretty good living in Austria, very high standard of living. A big push for tourism has happened. People have been skiing fancily up here for hundreds of years, but it was kind of just like a wealthy person's hobby. And now it's like the skiing capital of the world up here in the Alps. And, it's just a spectacularly beautiful, beautiful country. I can't stress that enough. And I know I say that for every country. The earth is a very beautiful place, but I think it's from watching The Sound of Music every weekend as a child, where the Austrian landscape just makes me smile when I see pictures of it. The only real big political issue coming out of Austria from recent history, they joined the EU in 1995, and after World War II, they declared neutrality. So, on paper, they don't declare sides in wars, and they haven't joined NATO officially or anything like that. So, the borders are pretty much open to all the countries around here. They're part of the Schengen agreement, I believe. And so are every single country around them. So people can just enter the border without any kind of, if you're from those countries around here, you can just enter. So in former Yugoslavia, when that was happening in the 1990s, many refugees were coming in. Not to mention in the 2010s, over in the Middle East and Syria, parts of Africa, many other people were also coming in seeking refuge, which sparked a lot of anti-immigration movements from the more far-right side of Austrian politics, which is a sad thing, in my opinion. This is my opinion now. Heaven forbid that anything should happen to one of those people, that they have to leave their country and flee to a foreign one where they're treated like second class, Just everyone is a person. Everyone should be treated like a person, in my opinion. That's a no-brainer for me, and it's very sad when I see anti-immigrant sentiments, because people are people, and that's just it. That's what it is. So anyway, with that out of the way, let's look through the book. Let's see this guy again. Could they have found a better picture? Absolutely not. That's the best cover for Austria. See, this is what I'm talking about. Is that not beautiful? Absolutely gorgeous. Let's look at some more. My gosh, the hills are alive with the sound of music, right? It's funny because I was talking about this with Melange ASMR, and it came up a lot when I was researching Austria, is that Austrians do not watch The Sound of Music. They've never seen it. They don't care about it. Whereas for me, that's one of the best movies of all time. And yeah, I adore that movie. This is Schönbrunn Palace in Vienna, an old Habsburg palace. Here is the president laying a wreath at a Holocaust memorial. And here are some refugees, tired and sad, entering the country, looking for hope. There are lots of beautiful castles all over Austria, dating from many different periods of history. Absolutely beautiful. It's a very basic political map of Austria. You can see Innsbruck, Salzburg, Vienna, etc. The beautiful Alps, big, pointy, and snowy and cold. Here's Innsbruck, one of the more beautiful places in the world, in my opinion. Here is the glacier that Melange ASMR was talking about. Pasteurs, I believe it's pronounced, but probably not. And this, I believe, must be a Kloßglockner, the highest point in Austria. Big, look at this ski lift above the clouds. That's so high up. And here's some avalanche barriers to protect people from avalanches. Some sweet little sheeps up in the hills. And this is like Neusiedl, I believe it's pronounced. Feel free to correct me in the comments. My German is decent, but not perfect. It's a very big lake and very prominent. A golden eagle, isn't it beautiful? And here's Vienna. Gorgeous, right? It's such a pretty place. Salzburg. Another beautiful. Austria's just a very beautiful place. Another very old castle. Like fairy tale castles, right? Here's the Venus of Willendorf. So this thing is like this big. It's very teeny tiny. And there's a lot of mysteries around it. We don't have time to get into it. Maybe another day. It's a fascinating artifact. A Roman arch, still standing. We have Salzburg Cathedral, which this spot was a church that was built in 774 CE. Isn't that something? It's been a holy place in Christianity for way long. This is Dürnstein Castle. I'm sure I butchered that. But this castle is famous for Richard the Lionheart, who was the King of England. He was coming back from the crusade, and he was kidnapped and held in this castle for ransom. And apparently, when his ransom was paid, it led to like an economic boom for the country. Here's Empress Maria Theresa. A boss babe if there ever was one, let's be honest. This is a rock memorial that's in Slovenia. I think there's a picture of it when I did Slovenia and flipped through a book. But it commemorates a battle in World War I. There's this guy, whoever that is. I mean, who knows? The aftermath of a very horrific anti-Semitic event known as the Kristallnacht. And this guy, Kurt Waldheim, was president. Yes, president. But he was a little questionable because it's believed he committed some pretty bad war crimes during World War II, which he denied like forever, but very questionable. Some allies marching through Vienna. The flag with the flag of the EU. And some really terrible people protesting against immigrants coming into their country. This is the Parliament building that has this gorgeous statue of Pallas Athena above it. Very, very beautiful. I just realized with the Corinthian arches, which is perfect because Corinthia is right there, isn't it? So here's Parliament. And the leaders at the time this book came out. Federal Chancellor Werner Feimann. And this was the mayor of Vienna. And his challenger, apparently, during that time. Some people protesting against the far right having power, as people should. And yeah, we're not going to talk about racists on this channel. This is a channel about world peace and acceptance of all people, so we're going to ignore people like that. She's trading in her Austrian money for euros. So they use the euro in Austria. Some industry happening here, and up here as well as an oil refinery. We've a very sweet cow. I think this picture was in a book about Switzerland, when I flipped through books about Switzerland. Because it's a fantastic picture of the sweet cow with the Alps in the background. This is also very beautiful. The gorgeous farmland, the patchwork quilt of farmland. This is Hallstatt, which is not real. This is make-believe. It's too beautiful to be real, right? But it is. It says right here, Austria's most photographed village because it's a fairy tale in real life. It's so beautiful. And here's the Graben, the shopping area of Vienna. This is another great picture. Here's the Alps, and here's a skier who's just admiring this fantastic view. And some lumber, and a big old catfish. He says blub, blub, blub. Climbing to the summit of Großglockner, and some wind turbines. Little chalets up there in the mountains, and one of the busy passes through the Alps. So here she is in her trachten, right? That's what they call it, the traditional clothes. And they're ready for winter. And beautiful farms. It looks like vines, right? Like grapevines? I'm not sure, but it's beautiful. Here's Utsi the Iceman, which I've talked about a few times on my channel. Brought him up during Lost Cities, Ancient Tombs. A guy they found frozen in the Alps who was from, let's see, the years in here. Oh, he's 5,300 years old. And there's a lot of mysteries about him. Some more little sheeps up in the hills, sweet little sheepies. Another just unreal place. It's too beautiful. This just keeps sliding off my atlas. Let me slide my atlas over. There we go. And this is in Carinthia. Beautiful lake. Just a beautiful place. Some famous Austrians: Sigmund Freud, psychoanalyst, and Mozart. Probably one of the most famous musicians to ever live. Beautiful town square here. And this is in Vienna, at a park near City Hall, it says. And here's Hofburg Palace in Vienna. Another little just, kick around place for the Habsburgs. Another gorgeous scenery. Isn't it so beautiful? You go mountain climbing up those big, big mountains. Here's some soldiers and enjoying the day at the cafe, having some coffee. And this is a Heuriger, I think it's pronounced. It's like a wine tasting tavern in a way. It's, yeah, that's the way to describe it. Getting some potatoes. And they're working hard in school. And look at this. This is the Vienna University of Economic and Business Library and Learning Center. Just has absolutely stunning modern architecture, right? It's a beautiful building. And in their traditional clothes, in the Lederhosen and Dirndl. Which, I grew up in a, Bavarian culture. It's like my long ancestry comes from that region of Germany. So, yeah, I had my Dirndls as a kid, too. It was kind of like that, but it was a brighter blue. It's really pretty. I really liked it. I wore it one time for Halloween. I was Pippi Longstocking. Anyway, here's Salzburg. We have this very old abbey that was built in 1273. St. Stephen's Cathedral in Vienna. This guy speaks out against, well, not really against, he's kind of speaking for changes in the Catholic Church, like opening the priesthood to women and married men, things like that, trying to modernize things in the Roman Catholic Church. Another very beautiful church here. It's really pretty. And this is a mosque. Lots of really beautiful religious buildings here in this chapter. Look at this. St. Charles's Church in Vienna. It's lovely. Here's Arnold. Very famous Austrian. And some newspapers showing different languages, even some French there. There's Le Monde. And teaching how to pronounce things and words that are in German and English. Playing some traditional music. And even more traditional, having some Umpapata. Boys choir. And there's Franz Joseph Haydn, another very, very famous composer from Austria, doing the waltz, like the biggest dance of its time in Austria. And von Schubert, another very famous composer. And there's little Mozart writing Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Johann Strauss, another very famous one, very beloved. And the Vienna State Opera, beautiful building. And this is another composer, Arnold Schoenberg, from the 20th century. Another beautiful church in Vienna, isn't that gorgeous? Very like Gothic, right? Yeah, neo-Gothic. And another beautiful abbey. And this is a convent, but it used to be an imperial hunting lodge. So many beautiful buildings. Michaela Dorfmeister, very famous Olympic skier. And learning how to ski here. Probably the most famous Austrian skier, the Herminator, Hermann Maier. And Austria is also famous for the Lipizzaner horses that come from the Spanish riding school and do all those very, very fancy tricks and choreographed moves. Going paragliding up in the mountains. Wearing her very traditional clothes here. And some very festive horses. We have an orchestra, the Vienna Philharmonic Orchestra, I should say. Beautifully painted Easter eggs. Oops, there we go. Oh my, look at this sweet cow all decked out for a mob trip. For a little festival. What a sweet cow. Look at this bell. Very cute. And of course there's Krampus. One of Santa's weird friends. For me, Santa has a lot of weird friends in here, but Krampus is one of them. If you're bad in this part of the world, Krampus will come and put you in a sack and beat you. So, be good so you can get presents in your shoe. A Christmas market, which I've said this a few times on my channel. I really wish there were Christmas markets in America because I feel like they'd really take off. But another really wonderful European tradition around Christmas. The big, big Christmas markets. A torte. Big yummy pie. A Würstelbox. I suppose in America we'd call that a snack shack. Würstelstadt. Some coffee with whipped cream on top and a little bit of chocolate, it looks like. And of course fondue, so delicious. And I grew up eating food like this, the Wiener Schnitzel, which is veal, which is fun because you take a hammer and you like pound it flat and then you dip it in the egg and it's yummy. And some strudel as well for dessert. And here's a lovely map of Austria. I can see all the mountains and everything. And there's Vienna and the Danube River, all that stuff. And here is where Austria is located in the world. Right there. So that's going to be it for tonight. I have, slide this back now. I have a few more videos planned for you about Austria. I'll read you a few more books. So be sure to subscribe so you don't miss out. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this video relaxing and educational. Check out Melange ASMR if you haven't already. She's fantastic, like I said. And I hope that you have a very good